Yes, very warm welcome today on Friday to speak about a very important topic, root of growing concerns, pharmaceuticals in ground and drinking water. I think this is a problem, a growing problem in Europe, but in different ways, and a global problem. I think this is to be aware that if we're speaking about this, we should not speak only about Europe, but of course we need here first the technical solutions, but in the same time also solutions for all regions in the world. And we have as speakers today the introduction, Pernille Weiss, member of the European Parliament. She will join us soon. Committee on the Environment, Public Health and Food Safety, Committee on Industry, Research and Energy, chair of the new MEP Water Group. She took it over last month. Shadow Rapporteur for Parliament's Circular Economic Report in Water Reuse, and board member of SME Europe. Then keynotes by our president of SME Connect, Dr. Paul Rübig, who is active since a long time in the topic of water and SDG 6, really an expert. Then we have the pleasure the first time to have as keynote speaker Dr. Isabel Oller Abarola, researcher CIMAT, co-leader of the Working Group on Containments and of Emerging Concerns Water Europe. Welcome to you. And we have also the first time as guest Dr. Bernd Manfred Gavik, project manager, Joint Research Center, European Commission. And I think we have now really experts who can give us different perspectives. And I would say we start with Dr. Paul Rübig, and if Pernille Weiss is joining us, we integrate her in the running program. Please, Paul Rübig, the floor is yours.
So first of all, a very warm welcome. I think it's just in time to see what we can do with the Green Deal. Van der Leyen, our president from European Commission, decided that we should look into the health issues in a priority, and therefore it's very clear that we want to see the circular economy in water, and water is the base of living. As you know, the Sustainable Development Goals are from United Nations, and in 2015 they decided that it's a human right to have clean water. And sanitation will play a key role in future time. So therefore, the circular economy in SDG 6 should be a priority for the European Union. And we all know that approximately a third of our human beings have no access to really good sanitation. We have more than 500,000 children every year who get who dies because they have no access to clean water. And you know, the story on washing hands and clean hands starts with clean water. So we have to see the whole water circle, and it's not only the drinking water, it's also the question of sewage treatment. And I think we have a new trend, and I thank Bernd Gavik very much, because he is very much in going into the depths of sewage analytics. And I think the sewage analytics is totally underestimated. I think in circular economy, it plays a key role of what you drink and what you get out of your body. And it's a circle. And if you get things out of your body, bacteria, germs, a lot of very dangerous things, and if you can't eliminate them in a very effective way, it's going back into the circle. So how can we get sewage treatment plants from the mechanical point in an optimized way? And how can we do the bio treatment, the biological side of a sewage treatment plant to get into a better mood and eliminating bacteria? A day before yesterday, I was with a company in Upper Austria, VTR, who developed now a new solution for getting rid of germs and bacteria and virus. and he could prove that he gets out 99% of these very dangerous parts out of the sewage. So sewage analytics is the first step. We should know much more what's up in our sewage treatment plants. Then sewage harvesting, what can we get out of the sewage? It's not only energy, it's not only phosphor. We have a lot of options how we can organize the water circle in a much better way. And therefore, it's clear that the water reuse directive of European Union is a key element. I think not only for Europe, I think we should be in the forefront of a global development. And we know that it's good to know how to treat drinking water, but also the sewage treatment and the analytics from the toilet to the clean water is something where we have to do much more. I'm also a board member of the EIT, the European Institute of Technology, where we plan that one of the next kicks should be water. I think we need more entrepreneurial spirit in this area because for the consumers, it's very good to see that science and research is bringing the right results. And I'm also a member of the ECOSOC European institution, where employers and people are working together to have a strong social understanding. And I will also put my activities in the ECOSOC to this question of sanitation, because sanitation is a human right, and therefore we have to fight for it. And now I see Pernille. Very warm welcome to Pernille, and I switch over maybe back to Heinz or directly to Pernille. We are happy to have you, and you are working, I think, on the most important area which we have at present on the global level, because without water there would be no life. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul, for your introduction. In fact, the first introduction, but we have a second introduction also now with Pernille Weiss. Very warm welcome, and also congratulations that you are the new chair of the MEP Water Group. I think this is, they choose the right person in the right time. And you were also shadow rapporteur for Parliament's Circular Economy report on water reuse. And I think you were very active. You were in the past also not for European solutions, also for global opportunities for SMEs. This is not only to help people directly, to save lives, to save the environment. It's also in the end also a business for SMEs. Thank you. The floor is free for you, please.
Okay, thank you so much. And to be honest, I really don't know why we had all this trouble this morning. I have been circulating around with a lot of meeting ID numbers and links and etc. But now I'm here. I'm just looking into a black screen, but I think you can hear me. Otherwise, please, Henrik or Horst, give me a note on that. I will be very brief. I will and just say what I had planned to say, and then I will look forward to hear all the good and great informations that we will have this morning in this important event that I think SME Connect very much for taking the initiative to do. When it comes to health and pollution, pharmaceuticals has a central role that we need to address together. This is why I'm happy to participate to share knowledge and also to listen. Because water is, as Horst Heinz also said in the introduction, almost, or as I'm born in March. I come from Denmark. We have an awful lot of water. I'm born near to the coast. So water is and has always been a top priority on my political agenda. And that's also why I have very much been looking forward to this morning, and my pulse has been high because I couldn't reach the connection. Okay. there is a need for serious actions to restore our biodiversity and to get to the wheels of the circular economy. We need a better grip, my opinion. Water is a very crucial part of both the complex system in that equation of circular economy, but also has a huge impact in the state of art that we can give to our children when we handle over the planet in a short time to them. The future EU initiatives, including the recovery plan, cannot ignore that importance, and especially not the importance of water to reach this objective of reducing pollution, restoring not only freshwater ecosystems, but also the soil and marine ones, and greening urban areas, etc. I honestly, and that is maybe the more political and important part of my short introduction, is that I honestly don't believe that the current urban wastewater treatment directive is fit for purpose. I mean, it's from 1991. I mean, I'm a grandmother now. In 1991, I was not yet a mother. So it's common sense almost that it urgently needs to be revised. I do not know any experts at all that tell me that I'm wrong in that sense. So in my work right now in the EPP and in ENVI, I do whatever I can to remind the Commission to step up, and maybe the Commission's representative will refresh maybe some of the arguments in the context of when will that happen, that we can revise the urban wastewater directive. When it comes to the water framework directive, I believe that this is a key to reach specifically the common objective as set out in the Commission's biodiversity strategy, the zero pollution strategy, and the more improved integrated management of water resources. But it also clear that it's the framework directive is not working enough today, and this does not mean, from my point of view, that we do not need to revise it. Instead, we need to push for the member states to proper implement the water framework directive. So let's focus on the urban wastewater directive and have that revised, and then let's push the member states to do a proper implementation of the water framework directive. By spreading, and that's for the directives. Another thing that is very much on my mind, and I look forward also to hear some of the input in this morning session, is that we have a lot of researchers, and we also have first mover companies who, with new knowledge, innovation, and new technologies, has the solutions of the future. And we need to step up in how to give them more space on the market, but also to help them get the approvals as fast as possible so that they can actually get to the market. That is what is the top priorities on my mind. So let's work with the Water Framework Directive, have the member states to actually implement it. Let's revise the Urban Wastewater Directive. And then also as an SME environment, let's help all our first mover innovators, companies, SMEs who are working closely with the rest of the industry and the researchers, and that who has all the more environmental and climate-friendly solutions actually already on their shelves to be put out to the market. Let's help them to succeed with that, because that's also how EU can show as a living workshop and a living showroom of new technologies for the rest of the world, so that we also can catalyze the export potential that we have within green technologies and water technologies, especially in EU, because we are actually in the top three parts of the world in that respect. So yeah, sorry for this stumbling into the meeting. No one is to blame than technologies that are out there in the space somewhere. I'm very much now looking forward to listen and learn, and in the end also to share some of the reflections from this morning. Thank you so much. Over to you, host.
Thank you very much. I think you gave us a very good overview from the global perspective to Europe. I think, yes, what you say, it is something astonished that we are not coming forward with such really crucial points like water. And I have to say, if you read that 80% of the water is going untreated to the environment, it's unbelievable how we want to reach our targets that microplastic and others that the oceans are cleaner. Now I have my technical problems. Now it's out, so you are not alone. Yes, yes, how to reach it. And
of course, you keep cutting away for some reason. Yeah, today might be an issue with Zoom in general.
Now pass fast over to Ms. Dr. Abarola before I'm kicked out completely again. And I give you the floor. I think we're coming now more to the focus of pharmaceutical and what is how we can solve this problem. And I think what I was reading, we have not so much data like we should need for this. Perhaps I'm wrong, but in Switzerland there was a new study about how much pharmaceutical are going out to the water system from factories, and that there we have not so perfect data like we should need. But perhaps I'm wrong. Please, the floor is yours.
So good morning. Can you hear me properly?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, perfect. So first of all, thank you very much to the SME Connect for inviting me for being part of this seminar and this morning. So I'm here also representing Water Europe. So I will try in my talk to introduce you Water Europe and our working group, mainly related to contaminants of emerging concern, not only pharmaceuticals, of course, but they are included also in all the treatments that we and our members are investigating. So I'm going first of all to share. Well, if I'm allowed, I will.
Yes,
stop the video. Yeah, I must stop the video also just to avoid any problems with the connection, because I prefer you to see the slides and my voice.
Okay.
So just for the moment. And yes, I'm sharing the screen. Can you see the screen?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, perfect. So thank you very much again for inviting me. I hope I will try. It is very interesting for me because I think this is highly focused on my work, my daily work, and also the work that I'm performing in Spain. I'm a senior researcher in CIEMAT, in Plataforma Solar de Almería, in the southeast of Spain. So we have great problems on water scarcity. So all our concern and our research is mainly focused on reusing of wastewater and also trying to avoid and improve water quality in drinking water sources. So I hope I could give you an overview of the technologies that we are using and also our members of the working group. So just to introduce you who is Water Europe, that is recognized by the European Commission as the European Technology Platform for Water. And as you can see in the slide, our mission is to improve coordination and collaboration in the water sector and water using sectors in the EU and beyond. We try to enhance performance and competitiveness of the European water sector, and we try to contribute to solving global challenges through research, development, and investigation. So let's say that Water Europe strategy is mainly focused on the whole value chain of water. We have a new water vision, and we try also to give service to members. So as you can see in the image in the right-hand side, we have different kind of members. not only university research centers, but also SMEs and public authorities, and of course, municipalities and civil society organizations. So here it's only to show you the different colleges that we have in our members, and also it's important to see that the public authorities and civil society organizations are also included. So the strategy of Water Europe is driven by the ambition to achieve a water smart society and also to provide services to the members. So of course, this water smart society wants to be achieved by giving the true value of water and to be recognized, of course, realized, because society is highly important in this challenge and in this fight. All available water sources must be managed in such a way that water scarcity and pollution of these water resources could be avoided. Water and resource loops are largely closed to foster a circular economy and optimal resource efficiency. And of course, we are fighting for obtaining a water system resilient against the big impact of climate change events, as all of us know. So Water Europe will drive their transition to water smart society through these vision leadership teams. Here you can see some of these vision leadership teams that define action to foster and accelerate the process of bringing successful innovation to market in Europe, but also beyond. So we have the value of water, smart water treatment, digital water, the value in water, hybrid green infrastructure, water innovation system. But what is most important is that we have the vertical ones that includes all kinds of waters that are water smart industry in cities and also rural areas. Of course, let's say that we have also working groups being part of the Water Europe, and this is the operational level for members' collaboration and coordination. They are fully member-driven and organized around a wide variety of topics, as you can see in this slide, of a strategic, thematic, and technological nature. I have only focused on the contaminants of emerging concern working group, which is directly related to the topic of today. This is a working group is led by Leonard Toste from Deltares, and I'm the co-leader from CIEMAT, in the southeast of Spain, as I told you. So going deeper into the problem, you know that it's true what it have been said about the analytics in sewage, but it's true also that we have quite advanced analytical tools that have already pointed out the presence of contaminants, what is known of contaminants of emerging concern, and included in those we have the pharmaceuticals at a very, very low concentrations, normally in the outlet of the sewage treatment plants and also in the surface water and natural waters. And of course, these contaminants are known as contaminants of emerging concern. These are not fully regulated yet. Indeed, there are a lot of them which impact and effect on the environment and aquatic organisms are not known yet, so are under study. And also it is, of course, clear that the huge demand of medicines and antibiotics, but not only from the human side, but also for treating animal diseases, is provoking their massive entrance to our environment, our sewage systems also. But let's say that since around 2000, there are a lot of studies around the impact of pharmaceuticals present in water, which can harm aquatic fauna and contaminate drinking water sources. We can find traces of antibiotics that are in surface water entering via sewage treatment plants, and they are creating the potential, they are creating reservoirs for bacteria and antibiotic resistant genes, and which are highly important nowadays. And they are highly considered also for the technological point of view for the treatment technologies. So it is important also to be aware that the impact of pharmaceuticals residues in water is expected to increase, of course, in line with demographic population increase, which is estimated around 37% by 2035. And here in this slide from our colleagues from LUT University, which are members of the working group, show how different compounds are normally almost degraded in activated sludge processes, or for instance in membrane bioreactors, though it is highly important to observe and to be clear that there are a lot of pharmaceuticals that cannot be removed in the conventional biological treatments. Here we have some examples like the highly known carbamazepine, diclorphenac, metoprolol, or atenolol. So we must be also conscious that specifically in the case of drinking water management, we must take into account that there are also a huge, not only pharmaceuticals, but we have also a huge problem coming from chlorates and perchlorates that can appear in the vegetables when they are irrigated with this drinking water or with this reused water. And this appears due to the application of chlorination as disinfection technology. And well, they have been considered in the new revision of the European Directive on Drinking Water, establishing a limit on 0.25 milligrams per liter. But I will also speak a little about this afterwards. So the scope of our working group is taking into account all of this problematic, like considering two main blocks. One focused on the multiple waters, the presence of contaminants of emerging concern in multiple water matrices in the environment by screening and monitoring, determining the sources, considering big data and modeling, of course, considering ecological and human risk assessment, and going finally to the prioritization and regulation issues. But we have also a big second block, which is led by me a little bit on new technologies for wastewater tertiary treatment for reusing purposes, also in drinking water treatment, and of course focusing not only in pharmaceuticals, but also trying to focus in antibiotic resistant bacteria and genes. Coming back to the governance, we would like also to only giving you few slides and few information on the governance that is actually present in Europe, at least. Specifically in pharmaceuticals governance, it is important to mention the Dutch Green Deal on sustainable healthcare. It has been signed by more than 200 parties. For instance, health institutions, government authorities, and companies. They have established a few important targets, like 49% reduction in carbon emissions by 2030. Of course, something that, from my point of view, is highly important, that is socially and environmentally responsible procurement. Of course, fewer pharmaceutical residues in drinking water, which would be better for the afterward treatment and technologies to be applied and related costs. And establishing a healthy environment for care workers and patients. Related to this, at the European level, we can only find, apart from the Swiss governance, we can find the new European regulation published this year on the 5th of June, establishing the minimum requirements for water quality, and that might be entry into force the 26th of June 2023. The main aim is to guarantee that the reclaimed water is safe for the irrigation of crops, thus ensuring a high level of protection for the environment and human and animal health, but also promoting the circular economy and supporting adaptation to climate change. Specifically, pharmaceuticals and contaminants of emerging concern removal are not considered mainly in the regulation, but they are considered in one annex as some recommendations for reusing. And specifically on drinking water, there is what I mentioned before, the proposal for a directive in the European Parliament on the quality of water intended for human consumption, which is the so-called Drinking Water Directive. And this proposal aims to update the water quality standards, introduce a risk-based approach to water control, improve information on water quality and water-related services provided to consumers, and improve access to water. In addition, it is important to be aware that this proposal also addresses the issue of materials that come into contact directly with drinking water. So now I would like to, I would like to give you a few examples and case studies on because I mainly focus on my daily work on water treatment and new technologies. So from my point of view, I think it's highly interesting to show to people that the technology is being investigated and already exists. There are a lot of research institutes and SMEs already working in these technologies. So I will give you a few examples coming from our own institution and research group, but also some of our members. For instance, here we have a slide from the LU2 University that are working on specific technologies on oxidation. For instance, here we see the post-corona discharge methods that removes practically all the pharmaceuticals that we saw that the conventional biological treatments cannot tackle with a very low dose of energy requirement. Of course, there is also a very big importance of the use of membrane systems for pre-treatment of this of urban wastewater treatment plant effluents or surface waters for trying to remove they are able to remove almost 100% of the compounds. But let me tell you that we are here speaking always on separation technologies. So we will finally obtain two different streams, one with high quality permeate system or effluent, but then we will find again a highly concentrated effluent that must be treated afterwards. But there are a lot of technologies that can be applied for that. So we must take into account, as I told you, that conventionally tertiary treatments like ozonation or chlorination are not able to completely remove not only contaminants or pharmaceuticals, but also antibiotic resistant, some pathogens and antibiotic resistant genes. So among the newer technologies that are now investigating in order to tackle at least mitigate the inefficiency of other methods are the advanced oxidation processes that are near ambient temperature and pressure water treatment processes that can be driven by solar energy, and they involve the generation of highly powerful radicals called hydroxyl radicals that are highly powerful and are almost able to mineralize and eliminate all contaminants. And so these have emerged a long time ago as attractive solutions, though normally focused on tertiary treatment. In this slide, I would like only to show you which are the technologies that, for instance, at PSA in the southeast of Spain, in our research center, we have a pilot plant scale for treatment of wastewater. Of course, we not only deal with the elimination of micropollutants or pharmaceuticals at very low concentration, but also for giving solution on industrial and non-biodegradable wastewaters. But in this slide, if we focused only in the line or in the pipeline regarding municipal wastewater treatment plant effluents, we can consider the treatment or the pretreatment in nanofiltration pilot plants. As I told you, the pretreatment of these effluents with these membrane systems will allow us to have a high quality permeate for being directly reused, maybe in crops irrigation or in another in another application. And then we will have a rejection effluent highly concentrated in contaminants that, and also we will obtain a reduce in the total volume of water to be treated. And of course, this tertiary treatment can be deal with solar energy if we apply some highly known advanced oxidation treatments like photophantom or electrophotophantone. for eliminating the microcontaminants of pharmaceuticals, but we can also try to use ozonation or UV pilot plants, but combining with catalysts or with other technologies for improving their costs. And finally, of course, the idea is always trying to reuse this water, this treated water, just to trying to find alternative sources of water. In this sense, I would like also to show you that these new technologies are also trying to focus in the design of new reactors that could reduce the infrastructure costs and also reduce the whole treatment costs, because traditionally the application of these new advanced oxidation processes are together with a high cost on reagents, and maybe also in the photoreactors if we can use solar energy. But there are new technologies like this Raceway Pond Reactor that has been traditionally used for the growing of microalgae, but now they are quite cheap reactors that are highly efficient for being used on the removal of micropollutants, as they can be open reactors, as they are more or less clean water with only micropollutants or a small amount of pathogens, and can be an interesting, let's say, an interesting application of this kind of reactors, open reactors. Just to give you also a few more examples, when we use the combination between nanofiltration systems with, for instance, electrooxidation processes and specifically photoelectrophantom processes. As you can see here, we have been treating mixtures of contaminants of emerging concern, but we always have at least some pharmaceuticals inside. So these are technologies that can be applied not only for contaminants for pharmaceuticals, but also for a huge variety of contaminants at very low concentrations. So the idea is trying to, with a highly complicated, highly complex water matrix, we can focus also with, thanks to this technology, on the generation of highly powerful hydroxyl radicals, but also other radicals coming, for instance, from chloride. And then if we combine with solar energy, maybe we can also produce some chloride radicals that are highly powerful, and we can also eliminate microcontaminants with a low energy requirement, and also coming from solar energy, which is also highly interesting from the sustainable point of view. But of course, when we speak on reusing of wastewater, in the case of Spain and southeast of Spain, of course, the most interesting application is in crops irrigation, because we suffer crop water scarcity since long time ago. So here in this slide, I show you the objective is to assess the chemical and microbiological cross-contamination on crops irrigated with treated urban wastewater treatment plant effluents after the treatment of solar energy or hydrogen peroxide assisted by solar energy at pilot plant scale always. And also we use advanced analytical tools for detection of contaminants of emerging concern and also pathogens. So here what we studied in our crop camera cultures were the transfer of antibiotic resistant bacteria and uptake of contaminants of emerging concern to the lettuce leaves and the top of soil. So we were irrigating along 3 weeks. And here what we observed, thanks to the solar treatment with hydrogen peroxide, we inactivated E. coli and the antibiotic resistant bacteria in fecalis. But what we did not attain was the complete elimination of the all contaminants. And after irrigation of the crops along several weeks, what we observed, it was the slowly uptake of those contaminants of emerging concern to the lettuce leaves and the soil. What is important, but of course always taking into account that the big concentration of contaminants that must be taken by the human, the persons for being risky to the health. So this comes to the next important issue, in the evaluation of the new technologies for water treatment, of course, even more when we are going to reuse this treated wastewater and treated water to crops irrigation, for instance, which is the life and also risk assessment associated to the maybe still presence of pharmaceuticals in the reclaimed wastewater after the treatment. So, for instance, here we have our colleagues from the Politecnica of Milano that they evaluated the uptake of 13 pharmaceuticals in various crops in Milan. They use an innovative modeling approach also, and they tested multiple risk minimization strategies. What they demonstrated is that the conventional wastewater treatment plants were effective barriers against to reduce the human health risk associated to pharmaceuticals. And we see in this graphic that the human health risk was, of course, highly reduced thanks to the use of wastewater treatment plants. This is the very first barrier. And indeed, we have seen nowadays with this coronavirus pandemic that the virus at the outlet of the municipal wastewater treatment plants are inactive. The genes are still present, but without any infectious effect. So the first barrier is wastewater treatment plant, which is highly important. Afterwards, we will require tertiary treatment for improving and eliminating the residues in pharmaceuticals and antibiotic-resistant bacteria and genes. They did also some lab scale tests by using, in this case, activated carbon, which is also highly employed in Switzerland now for the elimination of pharmaceuticals, and also combined with ozonation. And they also assessed the quantitative chemical risk for process optimization, which is highly important for the finally definition of the best treatment technology, depending on the water matrix always, and of course the application if we want to reuse the wastewater. So from my side only, I would like to give some general key message from my experience, and which is for me highly important, that the water scarcity and bad water quality are problems that are affecting all over the world, not only those that are suffering water scarcity like South Spain or the Mediterranean Basin countries or South Africa, but also there are a huge problem on water quality in northern countries in Europe. Of course, a deep evaluation and specific problems must be carried out, focusing on the optimum treatment option to reduce treatment costs if it is possible. There are different advanced oxidation processes, and there are a lot of technologies already available not in the market, but as research level, or even in some SMEs that are investigated in this topic also. But always economic and life cycle assessments and risk assessments are required for taking the final selection. And of course, for me, the last one is important as advanced analysis of treated wastewater, as it was mentioned before, taking into account the contaminant transfer to crops, and also, of course, considering the pathogens and antibiotic-resistant bacteria and genes analytics must be always carried out for ensuring a safe reuse. So that's all from my side. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for this very good overview. I think this was very interesting, how complex this problem is and how deep technical solutions can go. And because we have not so much time, I want to be fast. I want to give the floor free for Dr. Bernd Manfred-Gablik, an expert also for water and wastewater treatment and quality management, who is also very focused on urban and municipal water use. And please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I hope you can hear and see me. So my name is Bernd Gablik. I'm a weird guy in the Commission because I'm a scientist. It's still something which is not so frequent, and I'm working in the science service of the Commission. And more importantly, I work in the water resource unit. I'm actually behind the science for the water reuse regulation, and I lead a project on clean water for a healthy planet, about which I will share with you a number of ideas. Now, One of the things when you talk about water, which is important in an audience like this one, where you don't talk to peers, where you talk to people who are politicians, who are business people, who are people dealing with water in a completely different perspective and angles than you as a scientist, is to engage with them. And you have to tell a story in order to bring over your narrative. Otherwise, I'm just feeding you information and leave you alone with the difficult task to connect the dots and actually come to decisions. So let's start with a question, which at the end I will try to answer myself, and maybe this can open then the discussion. So if you could please all think for a moment about what makes you change your behavior when it comes to water. Don't answer it, just think about it. Okay, and now I'm jumping to my presentation. We are coming back to that poem moment at the end of the talk. So let me see if you can see my PowerPoint. That should come now. Okay. And I go to the presentation. But if somebody could just confirm to me that you can see it.
Yes, we can see your screen. Perfect.
Brilliant. So I'm going to talk about water quality, and I put very much into opposition here the perception and the realities of what I like to call a forgotten thread. And it's not me actually calling it a forgotten thread. It is also called like this by the World Bank. It's actually, they talk about the hidden challenge or the hidden threat. And why is this so important to talk about perception and realities when we talk about pharmaceuticals and compounds of emerging concern? You will see in a moment. So let's start with the slide here on globally looking at the planet. How does the planet present itself in terms of water quality? Now here you have a map which the World Bank, Richard Damania, who is the chief economist of the World Bank for Sustainability, a very good friend of mine, he published it last year in a book called The Hidden Water Crisis, Quality Unknown. And you see, of course, as you might expect, those areas of the world where we have the highest population density and the highest industrial activities are those traditionally are experiencing water quality issues. Europe and the Mediterranean and also the Danube come out pretty bad. Africa, you would say, oh, fantastic, they don't have a problem. However, more people are dying in Africa because of bad water quality than in Europe. So this picture gives you an information, but to put it into context, it's not that easy. As a matter of fact, we recognize, as Paul had mentioned in his introduction, that water quality is important, and it is explicitly acknowledged in the UN, the SDG 6, in particular, the target number 6.2 and 6.3, talking in particular about pollution. However, and I recommend this to everybody talking about UN SDG 6, please have a look on what we are talking actually about. Because we don't talk about carbamazepine or about endocrine disruptors. We talk about microbiology, so simple pollution coming from lack of access to sanitation, and we talk about nutrients, salts, and some parameters. So this is the global ambition, and I'm saying this because these are still the major challenges we face on this planet. And indeed, emerging economies, they follow very much the spirit. Let's first become as wealthy as the top league in the world is, and we can then clean up later. Here you see a picture from Mumbai, where kids are playing in, well, you wouldn't swim in that water, I guess, if you were a tourist. And you see behind a lot of shift transportation, a scrapyard, and emerging houses as a symbol of the economy in India growing very, very fast. Please bear in mind that approximately the entire production of pharmaceuticals, active ingredients, which we consume in Europe, is happening in India and China. So we develop the pharmaceuticals here, produce them there, and later on we are resynthesizing or formulating the protocols. As a matter of fact, if you go to India, to the locations where this is happening, you may find crystallized pure antibiotic in wastewater. Now make an educated guess where an antimicrobial resistance is going to develop in the nature. which will later on, by the way, kill patients in the Netherlands or in Germany or in Austria in a hospital. So things are quite complicated. And you see also that although you may have different similar population densities, depending on your level of evolution, the environmental degradation and pollution is significantly different. Here you have on the right side a view on London, on the left side a view on Bangkok, both of them in size around 9 million people living there. Of course, Bangkok looks pretty much like the London of 200 years ago, if you look in terms of air pollution and what it entails. So the development of economy and the release of new pollutants goes hand in hand. And just two figures to illustrate this. In Europe, in the last decade, ECHA, the European Chemical Agency, has registered or finalized the registration process for 90,000 chemicals. And the US American Environmental Protection Agency approximately counts 1,500 new chemicals entering the US market per year. Now, you can imagine that this is an amount of chemicals which are posing a number of questions. And I'm an analytical chemist by formation. We are very good in seeing this stuff. We are less good in handling and understanding the risk related to it. And this is something which drives the discussion, actually. Now, let's have a look on a moment again on what Richard Damania estimated, if we could express this in a price tag. I mean, price tag is a language everybody understands. Politicians love it. Scientists, they don't like it so much because it questions sometimes their efficiency. But in general, the ordinary layman can liaise with price tags. So the total economic cost for water pollution globally, how much is that? Now, actually, a parameter which gives us this answer is the biological oxygen demand, which is an indicator which captures very well both biological and chemical pollution. And if it exceeds this magic line of 8 milligram per liter, which is quite significant, the gross domestic product in that region declines by 1/3. You're losing 1/3 of economical potential because of the costs entailed of water pollution. What are these costs? Of course, the immediate lack of quality of the environment, the health issue, the treatment you need to have, but also the long-term effect when it comes, for instance, to conditions of extreme poverty, because you have impacts on development of the body, of intellectual capacities, and so forth. So this is a huge cost, and we don't like to see this so much in Europe. Now, in Europe, we are a little bit more privileged, and we can afford a discussion between reclaiming water or other resources and actually protecting the natural environment. And this is what drives very much the discussion also in the European Parliament. So I will not go into the discussion now on directives and regulations, but this is where the policy is happening in Europe. The reclaimers are saying, look, we can reclaim treated wastewater. There are no adverse effects to surface and groundwaters. We don't have actually risks for consumers, or we can handle those risks if we use it for food or crop irrigation. We have our microbiological threats very well under control. And well, when it comes to compounds of emerging concerns like pharmaceuticals, let's be honest, we can be here very pragmatic. We know these compounds, and yes, we can see them, but seriously, do we have a problem? And protectors on the other side, of course, go exactly to the opposite side of the spectrum. They are very strict when it comes, for instance, on water treatment quality. Best would be that the water coming out of a wastewater treatment plant has drinking water quality, which is, by the way, what's happening, just a little side note, in Orange County, which receives the wastewater from Los Angeles. You receive treated wastewater which has a quality which is better than drinking water. But you don't reuse it because the people would not accept it. So they make it a little bit more dirty and re-inject it into the groundwater and take it then out to make drinking water from it. Agriculture and soil, well, of course, biodiversity is a major issue, and we have to protect, of course, the biodiversity here. And we all have a right for health. Not only we as human beings, but also our animals and the environmental health have to be protected. And This means for pharmaceuticals, let's better be precautious here. And you're confronted sometimes with different scientific concepts for the same chemical, for the same substance, saying to you, you can eat an irrigated crop, and the other one, you cannot eat the crop because there is a risk. And how, as an interested layman or politician, you can make now up your mind? Well, if you don't have knowledge, you form yourself an opinion, fact-based on it. So it's the perception of the problem which creates the political reality and creates our boundary conditions to act on it. It doesn't solve the problem. It just drives the action. Now, when it comes to water reuse, we have seen in the presentation before from Isabel, water reuse in the Mediterranean is not anymore an option, it is a must. And let me be very blunt here also to our friends in Austria, in the Danube. Also, you are going to face the situation in the next 10 years that is going to have to happen. You have to reuse your treated water. Germany, Eastern Germany starts to understand it. So we know about water reuse that it has no effect or negative effect on surface and groundwater if certain principles of risk mitigation and risk management are followed. And we know that also the children eating that stuff which has been irrigated by treated wastewater do not risk something. Brackets, if you are living in Denmark, you should not eat so much of the fish coming out of the Baltic Sea, in particular if you are a pregnant woman or if you're a young child. So why should you worry first about pharmaceuticals in wastewater when you have a problem there? And on the microbiological side and the compounds of emerging concern, we have a very good and pragmatic approach. And in particular, the knowledge which is available in Spain, in Italy, in Cyprus, in Greece has helped us a lot to come up with a viable proposal. On the other side, now let's have a look a little bit on Central and Northern Europe, where we live still in a perception of water is abundant, we have plenty of it, our groundwater, or we can take as much as we want, we just have to make sure to protect it. And let's have a look not on the traditional agriculture we see in the Mediterranean, but the animal husbandry. Animal husbandry is a very important market for agriculture, and it produces, unfortunately, a byproduct which is called manure. Now, if you look on that manure, we have no problems in this country to put untreated manure on the soil, to grow crops on it, to harvest the crops, and to eat it. There's no regulation in Europe at all on compounds of emerging concern, pharmaceuticals, in manure. Now, it's a pity that we are producing or prescribing per year for animal husbandry 9,000 tons of active ingredients only in Europe for that purpose. And we observe concentrations in manure and in the leachate of manure-treated water on the agricultural area, which are up to 10,000 times higher than what we observe for the same antibiotic being used or being released by humans when it comes out of the wastewater treatment. So you see, we talk today very much on the left side. We talk very much on water and compounds of emerging concern in drinking and wastewater, but we don't see the elephant in the room, which is pretty much dramatic, honestly. When we discovered these figures, we were actually shocked and had to revise it. But it asks some questions. And these questions have to do a lot with the circularity of risks. Circularity of risks is a term which we know from science, but we don't use it when we talk about circular economy, because circular economy somehow is presented to us as the solution to all of our problems. But there is no free lunch. I mean, with circulation of raw materials being recycled or reclaimed, of course, also the risks entailed to them are being concentrated and eventually pop up. As a matter of fact, what you observe today, that for instance, the content of dioxin in breast milk has grown up. Why is that so? Well, we have been very successful in Europe to regulate dioxin's emission, but we are recycling plastics. And if we are recycling plastics, we are recycling also persistent organic pollutants, eventually reaching again the natural chain of things. And we see that there is a race of dioxins in breast milk. And now here comes a weird thing, which is so much of interest in the current discussion on social media and how you deliver a message. If I would show you now a correlation between life expectancy and content of dioxins in breast milk, you would see that the more dioxins you have in breast milk, the longer you live. That's shocking, isn't it? Why is that so? Well, first of all, because if you have dioxin in the breast milk, you are living on this planet in an economy where you have industry and hence access to healthcare. If you're living in the middle of the Amazonas as an indigenous species, you die with 40 years, but you have no dioxin in your breast milk. So this statistic doesn't tell you absolutely anything between the relationship of dioxin in human bodies and the risk or the life expectancy. It's just an accidental correlation. Now, how can you make up your mind if you would not have science behind explaining you that this is fake, this is really a lie? Don't go down the line. You are shocked, you are in a state of emotional arousal, and then I can launch my political message, which you will eagerly absorb. Oh God, dioxin is so dangerous, or in this case, oh, well, what's the problem about dioxin? We don't need all this regulation about dioxins. Now, globally, I'm working very closely with UNEP and the World Water Quality Alliance. The targets are still the right ones. Microbiology and those parameters I showed before are very important on global level. Nevertheless, in Europe, if we would like to be the forerunners and express this also in the zero pollution ambition of the European Green Deal, well, nutrients are important still to remove, but also the compounds of emerging concern. And now here comes the thing where we are at the edge of what we know, or where our knowledge ends. There are issues which are not related necessarily to single pollutants of emerging concern. So it's the concern emerging there. But there are true issues of growing concern where these pollutants and pharmaceuticals in particular are likely to have an essential cofactor. Well, the first one you all know are antimicrobial resistances. There is a clear relationship which we have really to grasp between the use of pharmaceuticals and antibiotics and these resistances, and this has to be managed. SARS-CoV-2, in a sense, I'm a big fan of it because it shows us a little bit that, look, this nature is not going to look on us humans invading the natural environment. This is an auto-defense system, and zoonotic diseases related to this are on the rise. We still don't know what are the cofactors related to them. Well, in SARS-CoV-2, presumably there is none still. And here comes now a thing where other aspects are getting interesting. I could talk about endocrine disruptors. Okay, so things changing sexes in your brain. In the recent literature, you observe a new term emerging, which starts to scare a lot of scientists. It has to do with male fertility. If I say this, I see already on your faces, you all start to be, whoa, what's going on here? About endocrine disruptors, you couldn't care less. Now I bring in the word male. So I bring in a word related to gender. And suddenly scientists all over the world are starting to think, oh, well, we may have a problem here. This shows you that the cultural concept, issues of anthropology are very important when we would like to come up with addressing the problem and solving issues. I'm coming to the end of my talk on this one, and then we can have certainly some discussions. So as a scientist, my job is to bring together the knowledge. And what we're trying to do together with the colleagues in UNEP, we are trying to bundle this data, with this universe of data which we have that are coming from Earth observation, modeling, in situ measurements, and even citizen scientists, and try to create knowledge. And this knowledge has to be delivered and channeled into political narratives, because this is what should drive our actions. Now, remember the question I asked you in the beginning. What drives you to change your behavior of water? I'm not sure if you still remember about it. But I challenge, and my experience is that I'm right. It is not the awareness that water is a limited resource. It is the fear that you're running out of water. It is the threat you see from contamination to the water. And it is maybe also another emotional reaction that triggers that you start to think about it. It has also a lot to do of where are you born and where are you coming from. So your cultural setting is important. In Denmark and in Germany, presumably, people are very, very sensitive about groundwater quality. In Spain, they worry much more about groundwater availability because you don't have enough. And this, of course, makes it very difficult to define now a realistic solution. Now, when it comes, and here I make the bridge to the small and medium-sized enterprises, if you develop a water technology in Austria, and you would like to bring this to the market in the Mediterranean, you have to understand the mechanisms behind it that the people are accepting and uptaking this innovation. Otherwise, you have a beautiful invention and it just does not fly, as most of the inventions, by the way. So the question is not so much in setting the political limit values and boundary conditions, it's more establishing the framework of innovation uptake. And here it is very nice, and with this I close my talk, what Paul has been saying, that for instance the EIT, the European Institute for Technology, bringing forward topics like water quality presumably can boost much more addressing the water quality challenge than, for instance, having yet another set of limit values established in some European framework directive. And with this, I stop it here. I think it's food for thought. Thank you very much indeed for the attention.
Thank you very much. I think this was a very good presentation because it's covered all aspects and it makes aware that we have to speak more about water in many different fields of our life, and also in the end, how to introduce this perspective, how water, what is still, you say like in Spain, we need water, more water, and the others, we need more cleaner water, that you have to take this in account. Now I give the floor free for questions, also from the speakers to the speakers, perhaps to react. And I hope you hear me good or not. Yeah, it's okay. I have also technical problems here. So yeah, the floor is yours. Paul, you would like to start to react? Yes.
Yes, thank you so much, Bernd and Pernille and Isabel. We are joined by an idea that for the next generation, we have to prepare now and today. And of course, we have also science questions, the economic question, but one of the key questions is how can we finance all these activities? And is there an overview on which level we can support this development? Because as we know, it starts with data analytics, it goes to building of the plants, it goes to, it's a lot of areas. So a mapping of the financing would be very helpful, because the World Bank and a lot of other and European Commission could see who is active in which field. I have some experience with Africa, and it's very different from state to state how it's handled. And so a mapping of the green financing, to say so, would be very efficient and very interesting.
Thank you very much. I think we could add also that with the World Bank, many SMEs feel them excluded from this financing. So only large companies have a benefit from this. I think we're collecting now the questions. Pernille Weiss.
Thank you, and thank you both to Isabel and Bernd. Wow, I really learned a lot this morning, to be honest. It's just like a tip of the iceberg, and you took us way down under the water surface. And I want to go down again and learn even more, and also to ask again more detailed questions, not in this framework. I actually did send to you, Gavlik, an email already. In the end of your presentation, Gavlik, the sound was not working perfect for me, but I think, and that's why I'm restating what I think I heard, namely that don't use that much time on directive policy. use more time on research and more resources on research. I get that. Maybe for political reasons, I don't agree with the first part of what you said. That's not a big deal. That's part of my world to work on the first thing. But on the research and the link from research to SMEs and to innovation out there in the real world, where also people, they tap into the narratives and the news. What can we, from your point of view, do better in that sense? Because there is, and that may be more myth than true narratives, there is this perception in some part of the industries, then there are frameworks that could be working better, that there is actually some of the facilitation between research and innovation that can do better. Seen from your point of view, what is myth and what is actually true narratives also that we must work more with? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Pernille. Don't get me wrong on the directives. Please go ahead with the directives. That just was a personal opinion. On the innovation side, now, first of all, let me be here also very blunt with my research fellows. I don't think we need necessarily more research, but what we need to work on is the extra mile in reaching a technology readiness level that can penetrate market. That is the point what we are missing. We have brilliant ideas which remain stuck in the university because the scientists, we don't let the babies grow. That is the problem. I'm working in the Mediterranean on the water, energy, food ecosystem nexus. And I'm working in Jordania, in Israel, I'm working in Palestine, I'm working in Egypt. The farmers are asking me, the first thing they ask me, how can I make money out of it? They are not asking for, give me now a project. Because what we see is you subsidize, you give a project, the project is over, the idea is dead. What they want to have is a plan and assistance in making the project fly. So for instance, you have an anaerobic digestion which generates water from or energy from algae. Fair enough. You have to bring this technology with, for instance, a company making cosmetics. And this has to happen locally. So what we need to have is a different mechanism of stimulating technology readiness levels entering the market and let it fly. By the way, and I stop it here, this is the reason why, for instance, a Gates Foundation is so successful in Africa. Microcredits, self-responsible entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship. These are the ingredients missing.
Pernille, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I'm very happy to hear what you say. Thank you for doing that remark. Also, I would like to put forward to some of, if there is some of my colleagues from the Parliament present in this meeting here. Please be aware that next week when we vote on the climate law, EPP, and that was actually a text that I created, and we all agree on that, is that we must have strategic partnerships facilitated by the Commission, but that actually does the work that you described that we need to do more of, Gablik. So that's very, very positive that we maybe found a political needle in a haystack that we really need to push forward through the next week so that we can have a framework to help innovation to reach the market so people also can earn money and do more. Thank you.
I think perhaps Dr. Aberola, perhaps you can give us also a comment.
Yeah, I would only like to add, because I fully agree, Bernd, and I would like to add just a few things, because of course I'm a scientist, I'm a researcher, so I'm in that point, in that site in which we must transfer to the SME or to a big company for going to the market with the technology. So I'm quite in that point, and we try to do that. I of course agree on that there are some researchers that maybe stop a little bit, they don't go through the next step and the market. So that's a big problem. But normally the people that and the researchers that as me work in the in the field, and we are in the middle between lab scale in the universities, because we are a big research center. So we mainly work at pilot scale, and we try to do demo with, of course, the SME and other companies for going to the market with the technology. So from my point of view and from my experience, what I think, we need more transfer, of course, from the researchers to the SME. But as Bernard said, we need these also mechanisms for stimulation, to stimulate the SME for going to the researchers and for giving them the tools and maybe some help or financing help, because they are normally small and they are only those that are quite interested on going with the new technologies to the market. So that's also my suggestion to Pernil, if I, from my point of view.
Thank you very much. Are there other questions left? I have by myself one. If you see now that only 80%, no, only 20% of the sewage water is treated. From this 20%, only 10% have really a high level. So if you speaking of sewage plants, often only 80% of the organic parts are cleaned. So when we discuss, we saw also that it's a global problem. How fast we can solve it? I think, should we start for the Africa to build simple sewage plants and with high solutions for Europe? What is the strategy? I think if we're going always to the best solution, perhaps we are too slow. And we have also, with Dr. Paul Rübig said, we have financial limited resources. How to solve this problem? Perhaps who would like to answer? What would be the strategy?
Maybe I can tell you also from my point of view. I'm Isabel. We work a lot with South America and with Africa in a lot of projects. Of course, the first barrier we found is that they don't have primary sewage treatment plants. So, of course, without that, we cannot continue in that areas. So the thing is, from my point of view, I would say we must try to go in parallel always. I know financing is not is limited, so but we must go into different objectives. I don't think we have to stop in Europe for financing the other, but thanks maybe we are more advanced, so we have a lot of technology for focusing on primary, but afterwards on tertiary treatment. So I think we must try to help those South America or South Africa for going up with the primary treatment plants, but afterwards we must continue here trying to go to the market, giving to the SMEs the power of trying to develop this new technology for tertiary treatments, for spreading afterwards to the rest of the world. But I think, yes, it's something of course, financing is always a limitation, but I think it must be in parallel, and we cannot do anything from the scientific or technical point of view without primary treatment plants.
And the time framework, if I think, is this 50 years? I think if we are, it's an urgent problem, and if you heard how slow the legislation is coming up, I'm thinking if we are starting with primary solution until we have the end solutions, this takes 50 years, 80 years, and how long time we have really until our water resources are collapsing under this, or is this, Paul?
No, I think it's always a question of the principles, and for us, of course, it's clear that SMEs should play a major role, because from family business to family business, you have to see the plants have to have maintenance. They have to be, every plant is tailor-made. So from tailor-made plant to maintenance and education, you have to educate the people. So I think it's very clear that we should start on the SME instrument. We have instruments in European Union which work quite well, but what we need is more attendance for this question of the water, and that's the reason why we should work together. also like now with the European Institute of Technology, we have there the food question, we have the energy question. So maybe we shouldn't wait for the next 4 years to get the water kick. Maybe within the existing kicks, we get the option to do a little bit more in entrepreneurial activities, startups. Scale up would be the most important question, how to help the one who have solutions to enter the world market or market which are in a need. And so the combination of these tailor-made units together with tailor-made financing systems, that would be very helpful.
Pernille?
Yeah, just to a practical remark. And now we have set the group of colleagues that are joining the MEP Water group that I'm chairing in EP, and I have arranged that we will start with a kind of a kickoff workshop instead of just being a new group, but not actually having a kind of a raison d'etre and a plan, an action plan for us as politicians in our respective groups, that we coordinate and may also make maybe a more logical ladder of initiatives that build on the evidence that we have now, and also the very valuable inputs from this morning. It's really, really useful. And if that is my closing remarks now, because I think the time is running out, I would say, please, Heinz, can you help us with the presentations? I would very, very appreciate to see them, also because Isabel, they were very, very scientific, and I would really like to read them again and come back to you and ask, oh, what's the clue about that graph to use it? Because what is also needed, because I was thinking about the question you gave, Gavlik, what is actually changing our attitude towards water? I was thinking, I mean, I'm 52 now. When I was young, I didn't pay much attention to that. But now that I am older and I know more, I see that knowledge and the wish to be responsible as a citizen is what makes me work with water as a politician. And I think that also goes for a lot of my friends and relatives, that the more we know, the more responsible we know we can be. And then that starts a positive circle. So I would like us also to do that even more in cooperation. So I'll get back to all of you, and I thank you very, very much. And then let's forgive technology for not being as great as human actions when we get in contact. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody.
Thank you very much. I think this was a great closing. We stay in contact and we share the data. Also, the participants, if you would like to have more information, please contact us. Thank you to all the speakers. Thank you to the European Commission, to Water Europe, to European Parliament. I have to say it was a really interesting discussion. I think we should not only focus on big topics like important like climate change. Water is what I think one of the key topics for our future. Thank you very much.